Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have a new book review for you. I want to apologize, like I did in my first video I uploaded tonight for the Beware the Goosebumps art book thing, channel update, Goosebumps news video, whatever you want to call it. They updated the whole date for release on that to May 25th or whatever, and so I needed to make a new video. I finally finished this tonight. It has taken me like a whole week to read this book. It's been like 6 days since I uploaded. Wanted to apologize for that mainly to you guys, because you guys deserve better than that, easily. It's been a hectic week, really busy week. This book was really great starting out, and it kind of lost me over time, and I'll get to why. Of course, this is spoiler-free review, so don't worry about it. My channel's pretty much always spoiler-free reviews, unless I say otherwise. Goosebumps HorrorLand, number 9, Welcome to Camp Slither. The cover's very red, so I don't know how my camera is going to handle that. I think it looks okay. Yes, that's a snake wrapped around a camp post saying like campfire and cabins and stuff like that. Anyway, for some reason, like the last week, my cover got so beat up, like both sides of this. I don't know what happened to it. Something like freaking air dropped on it or something. Drop kicked it, or I don't know. It's so weird. Anyway, this is one of the very few, if not the very last, as far as I know, even though I've heard Creature Teacher is one of the only other camp time books, summertime books, whatever. I'm sure it's not the last summertime book I have, but I think this is the last camp book. But I've heard Creature Teacher is not the last, or is one of them. Something like that. I don't know. I've read most of the camp books. There's a lot of Goosebumps camping books out there, like Ghost Camp and Camp Jelly Jam and all that other good stuff out there. Some good Give Yourself Goosebumps books that are focused around camp stuff. Really enjoy camp stories from Goosebumps. They're not always home runs, but they can typically be at least fun. And that's kind of where this started out. Basically, this book, Welcome to Camp Slither, is about a bunch of kids on a bus at the very beginning of the book. You have your main character and his sister, who wears this like little bracelet thing that kind of rattles like a rattlesnake. They are on a bus with a bunch of other kids to go to a camp called Camp Hither, which, it's like, why would you call it that? Camp Hither. That's not even, like in Ghost Camp, it's called Camp Night Moon, you know? Like, what? And the title itself is like a play on Welcome to Camp, what's that one book? Everybody loves it, and I'm like the only person who doesn't like the ending of the book. Welcome to Camp Nightmare. That's what it is. It's like a play on that. It has a lot of that book in particular in its blood. It feels like R.L. Stine's kind of doing the same thing over again. Of course, Goosebumps HorrorLand, for anybody who does not know this, if you haven't read these books, the first like 90 to 100 pages of the book are pretty much their own secluded story, like you'd read back in the day. If you got an old classic 90s Goosebumps book, you'd have like 130 pages to 118 pages of a straight up like novella, right? These have about 100 to 90 pages of that kind of thing, and then 30 to 40 pages based around being focused on this big story that each of these books, by number, 1 through whatever number, tie together with all the same characters, the same events within Horrorland, which is, of course, the subtitle of the title, Goosebumps Horrorland. The main story is basically about those kids on the bus going to Camp Hither, and one kid named Roddy that our main character is actually sitting beside. Roddy is very sketchy. In the sense, he's very skittish, is what I really mean. Not sketchy, but skittish. He's kind of terrified of snakes, and he keeps talking about how he's going to this camp, Camp Hither, that has this nickname, Camp Slither, that he hears all these urban legends from people about how it's, like, got a lake filled with snakes, and there's, like, this massive urban legend about this king snake thing called Serpo. That's, like, the stupidest name ever. Every time I hear the word Serpo in this game, every time I read the word Serpo in this book, not see it, not game it, but see it in the book, I think of that Al Pacino movie, Serpico. Does anybody else feel that way? I feel that way when I read that word. Serpo. Why would you name the big king snake monster myth urban legend thing Serpo? A serpent? I get that, but no. Moving along. So there's this whole urban legend about this, and the main character is kind of just okay. He's kind of a chill kid. His sister's chill. She's kind of funny. She has like little things she says that are kind of like what her grandmother says. Those are funny little moments, I guess, to an extent. Very interesting character traits I've never really seen in a Goosebumps book, of mimicking what your grandparents say, like Whippersnapper and things like that. Anyway, Roddy, the little friend character that's so terrified of the lake and everything, a lot of the story is focused around his paranoia about snakes and about the lake and stuff out there. And they get to the camp, but of course, kind of like mixed with Welcome to Camp Nightmare and Welcome to Camp Jelly Jam, or whatever the Camp Jelly Jam title is. What is is it Welcome to Camp Jelly Jam? I cannot remember the title off the top of my head, dude. I'm having like Alzheimer moments. Anyway, it has a lot of the different camp stories kind of in its veins. It's not a bad book. It's really not a bad book. But I will tell you, I think I realized why it took me so long to read this, aside from not having a whole lot of time during the week. When I had time, I kind of just wanted to watch movies like Zack Snyder's Justice League, which came out this week, and it was freaking great. 4 hours long, HBO Max only release, and it was phenomenal. Phenomenal, dude. I watched Fear Footage 3 a.m. this week, and it was very disappointing. It wasn't a bad movie, it was just like this. It was very disappointing for what had come before. Fear Footage 1 and 2 are phenomenal movies. And to have to read this and get through about 50 to 70 pages of the book, and it really start to slow down a little bit. Not that 70 pages for this with the big old font is really a whole lot of slowing down, but it does slow down a little bit. It gets a little repetitive at times. Then the pacing just takes off, and the last 20 pages or so just zoom by so fast. I want to ask a question. Have you ever read a Goosebumps book, or any other book out there, that the pacing and the writing feel like they just change so quick in pacing that it almost feels like you can't keep up, or that the writer's not being descriptive enough to really describe things well enough that you can process what you're reading? That's what I was feeling when I was reading this last, 40 pages tonight. I felt like I couldn't process what I was reading. I don't think it was a today thing. I'm very much awake. I finished the book a little while ago. I hadn't read it all day long. I've been busy. My wife and I went out of town for a little while. And I got home tonight. I did a little bit of cleaning to try to catch up on that for the week. Did some laundry. And I sat down, and I've been reading this. Finished that last 40 pages. And I feel like I genuinely just can't remember a lot of the ending of this book. A lot of that ending just does not stick with me. I am not a fan with the solution of that main first 100-page story. I'm not a fan of the solution there. I think it's really stupid. I still don't understand exactly what happened there. I don't really process exactly what happened. I don't know how to explain it. I don't like that ending. I think it was terrible. But it's also like the rest of the story was entertaining until that point. And it's almost like when I look back in hindsight, it's almost like that ending is so rough for that first 100-page storytelling, and so rushed and just pacing all over the place and so on and so on. I feel like it kind of ruined what I remembered of having fun from the rest of the book, even though it had its moments. I like urban legend stuff. This did not work. It didn't. It really kind of just... It rubbed me the wrong way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And now, getting to the HorrorLand segment, that started out really rough, and I didn't really like what was happening there, and then it got great. It got great. It's one of the few HorrorLand sections of the series from the HorrorLand era of Goosebumps in 2008, 2009 or so, that really, in my opinion, was great. It had a really great kind of takeoff about halfway through that 30 or 40 pages of the HorrorLand section of this book. So, the main character gets invited out to HorrorLand. He goes out there by himself. His sister's not invited for whatever reason. He goes out there. One of the first things he sees is a bunch of kids being attacked by snakes and vines and stuff, which was at, I guess, I don't remember reading this, but it was supposedly at the end of the previous book, which was Say Cheese and Die Screaming, the third Say Cheese and Die book. I don't remember the ending of that book with the HorrorLand segment. It picks up right at that, though, when the main character gets in the park and he sees that, and the kids go on an adventure once he rescues them or tries to rescue them. And you have more of an encounter with HorrorLand, of course, and its amusement park amusement park setting and whatnot, with the rides and all the interesting signs, the little things you might see out there. You have a whole lot more of that here that I think works better than most of these HorrorLand books in the last 30 or 40 pages of those books when they're in the HorrorLand story where they all tie together. I will say this. I think that about halfway through, when you start encountering the HorrorLand police or whatever they are, the horror police, whatever they're called, monster police. I don't know what to call them. I don't remember what it was called. But that was interesting. I liked that part. Now, once that kind of got going, I was kind of okay. I was kind of interested. It was a little bit better than what I remembered it being from when I finished that first 100 pages of the book and really wasn't interested in that main Welcome to Camp Slither story. I will say this. There is a villain that I love. It's probably my top 10 villains from Goosebumps of all time. Not so much scary. He's more of a funny, comedic guy. Has about 3 books of his own series within Goosebumps in all of its totality. And this villain, I got to see him and another villain that I love in Goosebumps come back for this that kind of works with that villain sometimes. They come in here at this last 30 or 40 pages or so, really the last 20 pages of that HorrorLand section of the book, and that was a blast. That was such a blast. I cannot wait to read the next HorrorLand book. Even though I'm going to read Monster Blood is Back before I go to the next one, I kind of want to bomb out a few of the HorrorLand books just to get them out of the way. Get at least past halfway of that series. I'm reading them in order, but I kind of want to get out of the way. Get to book 10. I've already read book 11 at some point. back in the day. It was Escape from Horrorland. Anyway, that 2 villain show up that we saw. Well, really, there was a lot of Goosebumps villains that made cameos here, and that was cool in that Horrorland segment. But those 2 big villains that showed up, I was really stoked about that. That was a really cool way to bring them in and have something interesting. I want to jump to the next book sometime soon just to see how that resolves at the end of that next book in number 10, whatever that next book is. I don't know what they're going to do with those villains. I hope they're involved more in the Horrorland era as the books go on, because they're more fun. They fit Horrorland so well. Again, the characters here, I actually like the book actually makes a point to say, like, the main character is just getting into the situation with all the other kids looking for some of the kids missing. You have, of course, Carly Beth there. You have Sabrina, her best friend there. They're the Haunted Mask kids. Billy and Sheena from Deep Trouble are in here, you know, in that Horrorland section. They had their own book within the Horrorland series. There are so many people that are here from previous books that you like. The first book of that series was a Not a Living Dummy book. It was called Revenge of the Living Dummy. You have the kids from there that are involved here. They're missing currently, but they were there at some point in these different segments. I kind of want to, at some point, just one day go back and just read those segments of these books, just all the way through, and do a big overview on them, like a big spoiler review or something. I might do that one day. I don't know. Maybe. Somebody else could do that first before I get there. I don't know. I really loved some of the things they did in the Horrorland segment. I think that really worked. It excited me. It made me want to pick up the next book. Horrorland is probably so far one of the weakest Goosebumps series that's ever been out there. You have Most Wanted, you have the classic books, you have Series 2000, you have so many great series out there. Horrorland, to me, falls so flat all the time. And I don't know what it is about that, but it does. It just feels like it doesn't work. It doesn't work with the whole tying together, but if you had like 2 big books that tied together all those stories from the end of these Horrorland books, I think it would have worked better. I really do think that. Because of little segments like this, you could have had 20 or 2 or 3 or 4 chapters that didn't work, and then have, you know, the 3 or 4 in the back of here that really worked and really kind of came together and made a good, fun story. I don't know. I feel kind of bad about saying that, but it's the truth. Welcome to Camp Slither is not really a great book. That Horrorland segment is worth reading. I don't know about the main story. I really don't know. I don't even know if I would say that it's worth reading through that to get to that Horrorland series segment. It's a really big miss in a lot of ways. I know this is kind of a longer review, a lot of rambling and so on, but I need to say it because it's really a big miss of a book in my opinion. It really doesn't hit the notes it needs to. I don't know, I feel let down. Because again, in hindsight, reading the ending of that first segment, that first 100 pages of the book, kind of ruined what I had read up to that in that camp story and how much fun I was having with that. I don't really know what to say. A lot of these kind of filler books in the Horrorland series don't work as well. They don't work as well as the big monsters like Creep from the Deep 3, or Deep Trouble 3, Creep from the Deep. They don't work as well as Revenge of the Living Dummy, in my opinion. There's a lot of them in there that don't work as well. It's kind of a shame. You know, even Say Cheese and Die Screaming was a really solid book for the most part. This is one of the weakest of the Horrorland series, in my opinion, after you get through some of that ending from the main story, the first 100 pages. But the Horrorland segment being so good earned some points and benefits from me. It earned some sympathy from me about being a filler book and trying its best to be a little bit better. The pacing, again, is so super off in that first 100 pages. It really rubs me the wrong way with that. It really kind of ended it in a bad way. It almost like it was like a bum rush to get through it, and I didn't like that. It just doesn't work. It really honestly does not work in that way. It's hard to look at this book and give it anything higher than a 3, or even at a 3. In my opinion, if I was going to rate the book on a 5-star basis, like I typically do in all my videos, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 stars. I just can't do any more than that. Not justifiably, but man, those 2 cameos, really the cameos of all the different monsters, but those 2 main villains that I love so much coming in at the end of the book, that was great. I really loved that. I thought that was so much fun. It was a good treat for a book that was really, really rough, about 3/4 all the way through. And it kind of saved it, if that makes sense. I have a little bit more of a smile on my face when I think about that book and want to go back and read it someday, if I do any kind of analyzation of the Horrorland series or whatever. That's about it, though. That's about it. I don't really have too much more to say about it. I'm sorry for rambling. Again, I know it's a longer review. Forgive me for that. I just want to get all my thoughts out in depth because I feel really weird about this book. It took me all week to read this. It's a short book. It's like 130 pages. It shouldn't have taken this long. It's been a busy week. And when you have a book that you're not really super motivated to read because it starts really messing up its own pacing and writing, I think it's more than justifiable to want to take your time getting through it. That's kind of what was happening. So anyway, what are your thoughts on Welcome to Camp Slither? Do you love this book? Do you hate it? What do you think about it? I love to hear all your thoughts and comments down below, whether you people agree with me or whether they disagree with me. Just because Goosebumps is always fun to talk about. It's always interesting to hear what people's thoughts are on different stories and certain villains and so on and so on. I'm amazed when I see people that pick a book like this that I really think falls apart really, really bad, and they say they love it, or even if they say they just really enjoy it. I'm always kind of like curious about what people say about that. So put all that down below if you did really enjoy this book. I saw a lot of people when I posted the community tab video with the picture of this saying like, hey, this is what I'm reading. A lot of people are giving me a lot of good feedback on this. I'm curious if that feedback for a lot of you folks who did comment about that, was that about the HorrorLand section? With some of the cameos and stuff? Or was that the main story, the Camp Slither story? I want to know all that down below. So anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you. 2 out of 5 stars for me. Goodbye.